You're listening to Scribble Talk, a podcast for bid and proposal professionals. My name is Bhaskar Sundaram, and with my co-host,
Ashley Case,
we will be sitting down with our industry veterans to share their stories, discuss their career, and learn how to make an impact in the industry.
Today's guest is David Sotolongo. David is a proposal development consultant working from home in Durham, North Carolina. Previously, he served as Vice President of RTI International's Multimedia Communications Services. In this capacity, he led a staff of 85 communications and publishing services professionals who provide full-time service support in publications, graphic design, editing and writing, product development, as well as multimedia design, conference and meeting support, and media and audience outreach. Mr. Sotolongo is a Vice President of Business and Proposal Development at RTI, comprising more than 2,000 staff and $750 million in annual revenue. Previously, he started and led RTI's proposal development group that is responsible for managing and submitting more than 1,000 proposals annually at a bid value in excess of $1 billion. David is APMP Professional Accredited, was the conference co-chair for APMP Bid and Proposal Con in 2013, former APMP board member and Carolinas chapter co-founder. David also co-chaired the Southern Proposal Accents Conference, SPAC, for many years. He is veteran APMP conference speaker and also has led APMP's Government Industry Task Force. He holds a bachelor's from Duke University and completed graduate course in journalism and mass communication at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. Welcome, David, to Scribble Talk. Great to have you with us.
Great to be here. I didn't recognize that person that you just described, so.
It's quite a resume there. I'm excited to learn more about it. So we're excited to learn kind of where you are from, where you were born, where you grew up, and where you went to school.
Sure. I was born in a little small town in North Florida called Live Oak, named after its famous oak trees. And my parents were born in Havana, Cuba, and came over in the 1950s. And my dad, who was general practitioner, doctor, and rather than go to Miami or New York like all the other Cubans, he went to small towns all over the country. He was in Youngstown, Ohio, Rome, Georgia, and then settled finally in Live Oak, where I grew up. Really small town. It was what you call a 3.2 town, which meant alcohol content couldn't be more than 3.2%. So you had to go to Lake City down the road to buy actual real beer or wine. But it was a nice town. I did go to private school in high school. I went to Bowles University in Jacksonville. I was a boarder there. And most famous for producing Chipper Jones, the third baseman for the Atlanta Braves.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then I followed two of my brothers who went to Duke. I went to Duke from 1978 to 1982, graduated with a major in history and political science, which meant the following year I was bartending. Really didn't provide, plus it was kind of a recession then, so I did all kinds of jobs. I poured beer at the Durham Bulls ballpark for a while. I bartended. I painted houses. Then I finally got a break. I got hired as a consultant for this group called the Kelton Group. And I did some work at FHI 360 for a few years as a technical writer. And then landed a gig as a contract writer for RTI. And there I worked on proposals. And after about a year and a half, I realized that Robert Kelton is a pioneer in the industry. I think he was pre-APMP, but he really was a legend. But being a good businessman, he was paying me about $35,000 a year and charging RTI $300,000 a year for my work.
Wow.
So when I found that out, I went to RTI and said, maybe we can meet somewhere in the middle here. So we worked out a deal where I got to be hired by RTI, and we continued to contract work for the Kelton Group for several years as a sort of negotiation. So while at RTI, I noticed that there was no real process for doing proposals. It was was sort of up to the proposal leader, who had to do all the logistics work as well as lead the proposal, as well as be a major writer. And so I had heard of this group called Shipley, and so I contacted them and negotiated with my boss to bring them in for training. So they did a series of trainings on the proposal process, and I took good notes and decided that we would implement the Shipley method. And I had great support from my boss at the time, Dick Kolka, who gave me the resources to hire a couple of proposal managers. And it didn't take long for the technical staff to go, wow, this is great. I don't have to worry about calendars. I don't have to worry about scheduling meetings. I don't have to worry about taking notes at meetings. And so the proposal process was really accepted by the technical staff. And we went from being a $50 million revenue company to within 5 years, $500 million, because we could write so many more proposals. And that was sort of at the time, that was the mission, was to, put every fishing line you can into the water. And so we grew, and I was able to add more and more proposal managers, add a writer or two. And so we named ourselves the Proposal Development Office, or PDO, and did that for, 20 years or so. And then they moved the proposal office under the leadership of the finance group, which to this day puzzles me because I'm not sure. It should be the other way around. But anyway, that's when I took over and started working with the Multimedia Communications group. And those were the writers and editors, video team, all the sort of creative services group. And it was at the time when we were transforming proposals from just being written documents. There were more oral presentations that were being asked of by clients. And so we set up sort of training for TED Talks, and to train people how to practice their presentations to clients, and then add much more graphic content to proposals, as we knew reviewers were scanning proposals. And so how to highlight win themes in the call out boxes, how to have infographics in there. So that was sort of my transition into the creative world. And recently retired, spend more time with my family and my dogs.
Oh, wow. Well, what a great introduction to your background. Before we dig a little bit deeper into some of that, can you tell us 3 things that not many people know about you?
Well, one was that I'm Cuban American. Most people don't think of that. Most people think Sotolongo is a Italian name, and I guess Longo kind of is. But that's one thing. The other is that I was. My family is notoriously horrible about singing. We were the only family in the small Catholic church in Live Oak that was thrown out of the choir. And when we have a birthday party and we all sing happy birthday, you can hear dogs howling for blocks. So don't ask me to sing, because you'll hate it.
All right, very awesome. Okay, so you talked a little bit about your role in the proposal development group at RTI and how it grew so much, right? Just starting kind of basically with you and then into a robust organization with over 2,000 staff. Can you tell us a little bit about that evolution and the things you did to make sure that evolution went smoothly?
Sure. And just to clarify, the 2,000 people weren't reporting to me. That was the whole company. But we went from me and an assistant to about 15 proposal managers and writers, and within about 3 to 5 years.
Wow.
And again, it's because the technical staff were great at embracing this process. And the key was hiring really good proposal managers. Who could take complicated proposals and make them go streamingly well for the technical staff. We at the end of my career there, one of the things we were doing, Ashley and Bhaskar, was that we knew that training was changing in the industry. That, you know, when I started, it was bringing in Shipley for literally a week, 5-day training on the proposal process. Well, no one's going to sit through 5 days of training anymore, much less even or two. I had them call it down to 2 days after a few years, because that was kind of asking a lot of people to stay for 5 days. But even stand-up training is becoming kind of old-fashioned. So what we were doing the last 2 years is producing what we call just-in-time videos for the technical staff to use for proposals. As an example, these are like 3 to 5 minute videos they're animated, but voiceovers of people such as myself or other proposal professionals reading a script. And one example is that we had how to be a red team reviewer. And so when a technical staff person was asked to be on a red team, they could watch this video just before they were about to get the RFP and the draft about what was expected of them, how they could contribute the best with the little time they all have to do a red team review. We did that for every color review and for every role. And how to be a proposal leader obviously was an important one. How to be a writer. And so we were producing those, and they were very popular because people don't have time for sit down training. And so, but they got 5 minutes they could spend learning how to do that role in a proposal.
Oh, I love that idea. And I feel like so many organizations would benefit from something like that, particularly, when you bring in a color team reviewer who's never done it before, right? And
Right.
They don't really know. And if they don't get that training, then it's just not as helpful.
Right. And you can't give them a manual because that's sort of old-fashioned too. So video is definitely the way to go. Yeah. Thank you.
Absolutely. That's really cool. So I understand that your team would submit, 1,000 proposals a year or so. I'm sure that some of those are quite memorable. Are there any that stick out to you?
Well, I'll tell you one thing that we were doing that was caused by one proposal that got in late. And it was this was when they first started electronic submissions, and the doc prep person who was going to submit it, and that was one of the mistakes we made, is we should have had the proposal manager do that. But they were working on 4 or 5 things at once, and they forgot, and they sent it in 5 minutes late. And despite our protesting, and that proposal was not allowed to be submitted by the client. So that was like you can imagine being that proposal leader, the project they really wanted to win and work on for their scientific stature, and just because you were 5 minutes late. So the first thing we started to do was, even though some of them were not email yet, they were still sending hard copy, is we would make, we were based in Research Triangle Park, North Carolina. So we would make 2 sets of hard copies. And I created the day before policy where if the proposal was due on Friday, we're shipping on Wednesday. That was really difficult to implement because, proposal leaders hated losing that last day where they could change everything. But if we finally, having a proposal not be submitted kind of convinced people this was important. So we'd ship 1 to the client and 1 to our DC office, just in case that one of the client didn't get there for any reason. So if you can imagine, you all know how hard it is to produce 1 hard copy the day before. We're producing 2 days before. And when we went to electronic submission, we did the same thing. We have the day before, even though it's electronic, so it gets there the day before it's due in case something happened. Took a while, but it became routine. It's like anything else. Once people get used to it, you put it in the schedule. You just pretend the due date's a day earlier, and off you go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Not having that one get in time was very, very painful for me and the whole team on the proposal team.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And sometimes it does take something like that for teams to realize, yeah, you do need to submit early. And, this is really why.
Exactly. Yeah.
So we rattled off a bunch of achievements within APMP in your kind of intro earlier. When did you join APMP as a member?
When?
Yep.
I believe it was, gosh, I don't know, 80, mid 80s maybe.
Oh, wow.
I'll have to double check that, Ashley, because I may be dating myself. But anyway, I found out about them by just seeing some advertisement for a conference.
Mm.
And so I convinced my boss to send me to the conference. And, when you first get exposed to this, you're in a room with, 500 people who do the same thing you do. And it was exciting. And I was just on cloud nine. I was like, oh my God, there's so many people out here who have the same issues I have. And then the presentations were all obviously relevant. And so I came back just fired up, like we're going to I talked to some of my proposal managers, and really RTI led the creation of the Carolinas chapter. We had like 7 of the 8 board members. And then we later joined with South Carolina to call it the Carolinas chapter.
Okay.
And I led that chapter for a few years and turned it over to some of my proposal managers. But really what we found out was that APMP was our industry. And so one of the things I led and really encouraged my staff to do was to do presentations. So at RTI, they've got what they call, in addition to the research track, they have the scientific stature track, which is doing publications and, being a scientist, that you have a standing in your community or industry as somebody who publishes. And so our publications was doing presentations. And so I did a lot of presentations over the years at APMP. I tried to have fun with it. I did themes about, Harry Potter or The Walking Dead or whatever. But and then I encouraged my staff to do presentations, and several of them followed through on that. So, because this is your scientific stature. This is you giving back to the industry that's done so much for you.
So you have been a huge participant in the SPAC conference. Can you tell us a little bit about the SPAC? And I imagine you guys were kind of, the initiators of that.
Yes, the Georgia chapter has been incredibly great about allowing us to participate, and I was just juiced for it because this was a one-day conference. It started off as a one-day conference. I think it's a day and a half now, but one-day conference. And Keith Probst, who's a prominent APMP member from Georgia, and I have been we initially co-chaired the conference, and this was another place where we could allow my staff to sort of practice presentations, because we would often do a presentation there and then fine tune it and then take it to the national conference. But it was great. We held it in Atlanta. We brought it to North Carolina once, and that was a bit of just didn't, the attendance kind of dropped, and so that was an experiment that kind of failed because it just didn't have the history here. But we would plan it, and we had it was pretty popular across the country. We got people from around the country to come and do presentations, and of course Atlanta's a fun city to visit, so it was great. And the fact that it was one day made it a little easier to plan. Although, gosh, at the time it felt like it would take a month of days to plan it and execute it. But plus you gotta love the name, Southern Proposal Accents Conference, and so that was a lot of fun as well as rewarding. And working with Keith, I'm still friends with him on Facebook, and just an amazing individual. really gave a lot of his time and effort, free of charge, of course, to make that conference a success.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It has a great reputation, so you guys did a great job with it. You mentioned a little bit about some of the cool themes that you had with your APMP presentations. I think you said Walking Dead.
Yeah.
Do you have a favorite presentation that you've given at the conferences?
I think one of the ones that I did was just on capture process and how to do best practices in capture. I can't remember the title off the top of my head, actually, but I'll bring up my resume in a minute and see if I can.
Was it perhaps the walking capture?
Yeah, it probably was the one that I did, the Walking Dead theme. And I tried to each one have, and I sort of repeated some themes into different topics.
Okay.
But I'm kind of I watch a lot of pop culture TV, and so it was always, and of course, when Harry Potter came out, my daughters were at that age where they just consumed. I remember waiting in line at the bookstore for like the last 4 books because it became so popular that you had to pre-order, and I observed my daughters for like 2 hours waiting in line to get the book the day it came out.
Oh my goodness.
So Harry Potter was always very, very dear to my heart. Still is, really. I mean, I still watch it if it's on TV. And then Walking Dead was another one where I was a big fan, and so I tried to bring some pop culture in. For one, just to make it more interesting and accessible, but two, because I liked it. It fascinated me how you could bring modern culture into a proposal process that's a little dry, So I try to do that as much as I can. Sometimes it failed, I'll admit. But most of the time it was enjoyable. And as long as you didn't overdo I think on one of my presentations I overdid the Walking Dead, almost as much content of that versus the actual presentation. And that was a little too much, but just sprinkle it in here and there, even with just the background theme of the slides. I think for me, it made it more enjoyable to present. And I hope it made it more enjoyable to digest as a attendee.
Oh, for sure. I think those creative topics where you can weave in something else that the audience relates to are the ones that stick for sure.
Right.
All right. Well, I think that's a great segue into kind of our surprise rapid fire questions round. You started opening up a little bit about your daughters and Harry Potter and some of your interests. So I think Bhaskar is going to dig more into some of that stuff now.
Hey, I'll be prepared.
David, I think you mentioned that you have a Cuban American heritage. David, why do you think Cuban food is best? Is there any favorites that you have?
Oh, definitely. Arroz con pollo, and chicken and rice, and plantains. I love cooking and eating plantains, and just the richness. Cuban food is really, I guess that's where it's juicy. It really wants the rice and chicken to have a lot of flavor in it, and in some ways it seems bland to other people, but spicing up the Cuban food is makes it so much better. And I love chicken and rice is probably my favorite dish. I can have that probably every day. I love black beans. I love making black beans, and so we do that often in our household here. We'll have a Cuban night, maybe make some sangria or mojitos, and then do the chicken and rice and black beans with plantains.
Wow. The next time when you have a Cuban party, please do invite us.
I sure will.
I remember, I think during my university days, I think my roommate, he was from Colombia, and then he used to make arroz con pollo and what's called pataconas, and a few bits. But
yeah. Very similar, yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so that's great. And looking at your two dogs, David, Gus and Oscar. If you are asking Gus and Oscar one question each, what question would you ask them?
Well, for Gus, I would ask him, why does he like to eat dog poop? Well, I walk him every day, he just goes nuts trying to find dog poop to eat. So it's just one of the most disgusting habits, although he's just the love of my life. And with Oscar, it's why do you bark at other dogs? He has this terrible habit of barking at other dogs, which makes our walks in the afternoon a little bit complicated sometimes. But love them both. They're very, very different, obviously. I mean, Gus is a big black lab, and Oscar's this little small Jack Russell Terrier. So they're kind of opposite ends of the dog spectrum, but great friends.
100%, David. And your daughters, Marissa and Sylvia. I think Sylvia works with you. Is she working with you?
Well, she got hired. Thanks for asking. She got hired at RTI. She's working out of our Boston. Well, it's Waltham, but it's a suburb of Boston office. And she's working in the public health evaluation department or domain area. So I'm really excited about that because I think she'll do well with that. I think a not-for-profit was a good place for her to land.
And your other daughter, my God, Marissa is a PhD in sustainable energy. You should be super proud.
She's getting her PhD. Yeah, I sometimes wonder if I need to do a blood test on her. She went to MIT, and now she's getting a PhD in sustainable energy at Northeastern, also in Boston. But that was the kind of kid she was when she was younger. On Saturday nights, she wasn't going out. She was in high school. She would get on the phone with her friend Tara, and they would do homework together. So academics was always very important to her. So she earned it. And I told her, my wife and I told her that if she got into a school like MIT, we would make it work. We would pay for her to go there, and she did. So we found a way to. Because those schools aren't cheap, let me tell you. But I was happy to do it. We were happy to do it because she earned it.
Exactly. That's nice. That's beautiful. So if I ask your daughters, Marissa and Sylvia, to give reference for Daddy, what do you think they would say about you?
They would probably say that I'm a really nice guy. I like to laugh a lot and make other people laugh a lot. That I'm compassionate, and I try to show empathy a lot. I think that's, especially this day and age, that's something we need to have in bountiful supply. I'm a joker. I mean, I'm the sort of comic relief of our family. My wife is the one who does the finances, and she does the important stuff, and I keep people laughing.
I think that's kind of a scenario for most families.
Yeah.
Like that said, when you step into home, you know who's the boss.
Right. Exactly.
Exactly. That's nice. So, living in Durham, with parents, your mother-in-law and your brother, sister, looks like there is a nice family set up in Durham. Do you have any memorable Christmas memories with your family?
All of them, really. I mean, we're so fortunate to have everybody here. My parents are in a nursing home now, an assisted living, so they can't. My house always hosted Christmas Day for opening presents and dinner. This was probably the last time they were here. Would be my most memorable, because we had the whole family here around the table, and that's like 22 people when you include the nephews and nieces, all of those. And it's just so. I mean, I came to Duke and I never left Durham. I love Durham. It's a very diverse city. It's just blossomed since I've been here into a very some of the great chefs in the Southeast are in Durham, and downtown Durham went from being sort of a slum when I first came here to like this vibrant downtown with small businesses opening up all the time. And then one brother moved here, and the other brother moved here, and then my sister moved here. My mom, when they were still in Florida, told my dad that she's going to Durham. He can come or not, because that's where everybody is. And so I have one brother who still lives in Texas. We're working on him, but yeah, it's great, to have. We have, as I told you earlier, the birthday parties. We all get together and we all get along, which is sort of unusual for a family of this size. It's another good thing.
You're so blessed, and let it continue to be the same thing, David. David, what ridiculous thing has someone tricked you into doing or believing?
What has somebody tricked me into doing?
Uh-huh.
Oh, that's a good one. I can be easily tricked because I'm so trusting. So, I think, let me think of one time. I think I was once tricked into thinking that I was going to a regular party, and it turned out to be a surprise birthday party for me, because it was a surprise because it was about a week early. And so that was, when you're really genuinely surprised, when you walk in a room and people are surprised, it's pretty unusual and great feeling. It doesn't happen more than once in a lifetime. So that was great. And I was happy to be tricked that day.
That's brilliant. Thank you, David. David, then looking back, if you see, and I know you are an avid fan of The Walking Dead. Let's talk some of the questions around it. In your opinion, how does a person turn into a zombie?
Well, it's interesting because there's different types of zombies, right? In The Walking Dead, when they're bitten by another zombie, which begs the question: how was the first one created? Wow. Was it from a disease from a bat like COVID? We don't know, but they're slow and they're easy to get away from if you have to. But if you watch a movie like World War Z, they're zooming around like superhumans, and so there's different kinds of zombies, and you have to sort of figure out: are they slow, are they fast, and react accordingly. I don't know. I think with the Walking Dead, their problem was, even though they were slow, there were a lot of them, and I'm not sure I'm gonna keep watching because they killed Rick Grimes, who was the leader. We think he's dead. We're not sure, but I can't watch that show without him. It's just not the same thing.
Yes, that's looks like the intensity comes of David. So that's great. What do you think is the zombie's weak point?
I think they don't have a brain, so they're not too smart. They have a herd mentality, so they're easy to herd into a situation where you might be able to kill them all. So it's a lesson for proposal managers that you really should use your brain, otherwise you could turn into a zombie.
That's nice. So what do you think are your 3 tips to survive a zombie apocalypse?
The 3 tips. Well, number 1, you need to have a weapon, and I'm not a gun advocate, but either a bat or something that you can hit the zombie with, and crushing their skull is what ultimately kills them. Number 2 is you should have a vehicle, because getting around is important to escape a zombie attack. And then number 3, I think you should have a good supply of beer and wine.
Nice, David. So what's the funniest movie you have ever seen?
Wow, that's a good one. I'd have to say, I'm trying to remember the name of it now. It was, well, any movie that's got Steve Martin, the old Steve Martin movies were good. have to come back on that one. I've got to think of what some of the funny movies I've seen before.
Yes. Okay. So what trait do you like the most about yourself?
What trait?
Mhm.
I think that I'm kind. I mean, people have always described me as someone who's patient and kind. I try to be. Now, I'm a cancer survivor from about 6 years ago, and that obviously is a big moment in transition in your life. And I realized that being mad at people, holding grudges at people, was a waste of time. And so, I try to treat people with kindness, and especially in this age where everything is so divisive, I think it's important to let that go and be nice to one another. It sounds kind of corny, but goes a long way to keeping life civil and keeping life fun. And just arguing all the time with people. Like my family's pretty split among political lines, and it used to be kind of frustrating at dinner parties and things. And finally, I got them all together and said, let's not ever talk about politics, because you're not going to change my mind, and I'm not going to change your mind. So what's the point of us arguing when it's not going to do anything? Let's just talk about anything but. And I think more people should do that. So
it's brilliant. So who is the kindest person you know other than yourself?
my mom. My dad's always said that when she dies, he's going to grab onto her ankles because she's got a one-way ticket to heaven. She's just got such patience, and she was a working mom at home, and she raised 5 kids, and none of us are in jail, so she did a pretty good job. And I think she really taught us the issue we were talking about earlier, asked her about being nice to people, and I've never seen her lose her patience. I've never seen her get angry. I mean, a little bit angry when we messed up, but she was just the nicest person I've ever met. To this day, she still is, and great role model for me, obviously, but a lot of other people as well.
Beautiful. So, if you have to describe your wife in one word, what word would you choose?
Organized. She's thank God, because I'm exactly the opposite. Maybe that's why opposites attract. But she's just got everything. And she puts things in Excel sheets all the time for us. I have a lot of different health issues in addition to being a cancer survivor. I've got a chronic leg pain issue and a compromised autoimmune system, and so I take 20 pills a day. It's kind of outrageous. And so she got the idea of rather than taking them all at once, she researched it and put half of them in the morning and half of them in the afternoon. And she organized my pill box all the time because I would probably get them backwards. So she's just a godsend for keeping me out of trouble and keeping us really organized. I mean, she's also she's an attorney, and she's an attorney for she worked for Protective Services for a long time, and she works with children and families of low income in Durham to make sure that parental rights are held. And she's basically giving back to the community a lot.
Wow. The more I talk about your family, I think everybody will be jealous, David. So it sounds super blessed. David, let's on the point. So who are the people who have been the most influential in your life and career?
Okay, well, in my life, it clearly is my parents. The sacrifices that they made. They sent us all to private high school because the school system in our small hometown in Florida wasn't exactly a feeder system to universities. Mostly as people graduated and went and worked in the town. It was a big farming community. So they sacrificed to send us to good school. And they've also supported us. Some of us have had financial problems where you lost your job, and they've always been there to help, and no questions asked. They just, what do you need? And that, I'm trying to do that, model that with my kids as well. So for my life, it's definitely my parents. For my career, I've been fortunate to work for some of the literal giants of the proposal industry. Starting with, I told my boss, Dick Kolka at RTI. He was a proposal genius, and he was a research scientist, but he knew how to write a proposal like any I've never seen before. He was a brilliant writer. He's where I learned persuasive writing from him. He could write an executive summary that would just take your breath away. And so I worked for him for a long time. I worked for Tim Gable until recently, who was also, RTI, you rose in your professional ranks if you were good at proposal. And so I got to learn from some of the best. Obviously, I have a great deal of respect for Rick Harris, the executive director of APNP. I've known him since I joined. He's been a great influence on me as well. And then, a lot of the people at Shipley were so instrumental in launching my career. Roy Wallace, obviously, was our first contact there, and others there, even Steve himself, who came to RTI several times. I owe them a big debt because they instilled in me the importance of process, and that's what really made my career at RTI.
Wow. Now, what's the biggest lesson life has taught you so far?
Well, I have a tattoo on my wrist after I got cancer. It's LIM, the I being the cancer symbol, and it stands for live in the moment. I think we can spend too much time worrying about what happened yesterday or last week, or especially in this day and age, worrying about what's going to happen next week, and miss the moment. So I think the biggest lesson I'm teaching myself, because it's a daily lesson to learn, is live today and don't worry about tomorrow. It'll come. That'll be the next today, and to just enjoy the moment with friends, with family, with your work, and have a passion for everything you do. I think too many people are unfortunately in positions with their employment where it's not fun, and sometimes that's unavoidable for them. But if you're able, find a job or a career, or I'm very big on doing community engagement. So I was on the board of directors for the Durham homeless shelter for about 7 years. That was one of the most rewarding things I've ever done. And so find something that you can give back to the community, and trust me, it'll be so rewarding that you will want to keep doing it.
It's beautiful, David.
All right, David, it has been amazing learning about your career and learning a little bit more about you personally. I've really enjoyed it.
Oh, thank you.
It sounds like you've had some amazing influences in your career and some great people who you've worked along with. I'm curious, what's the best piece of advice you've received, and who gave that advice to you?
It's a great question. Well, I would say one of my other bosses, who's the current CEO at RTI, Wayne Holden, once told me to stop acting like you're just a proposal manager and start acting like a leader and lead by example and take chances and fail and then get up and try it again. Again, a little corny, but it was, it woke me up to the fact that you got to stretch yourself in your career. You got to take chances. And, that's when I got very aggressive, not the right word, but very active with trying to become a vice president, which I eventually did under Wayne. And not for the title, but for the responsibility and accountability. He was a great mentor for me, and I'm beholden to him for all the advice he gave me when I was reporting to him.
Yeah, that's amazing advice, and something that, aspiring leaders can take to heart as well, and kind of learn from that and kind of get to where they want to be with their careers. Yeah. So on a similar vein, you spent 30 years with an organization, growing, learning, just becoming an amazing proposal professional with one organization. It's something that not a lot of people, particularly in these days, do anymore. Looking back, is there anything that you wish you had known when you began your career and started off on this, proposal journey?
I wish I had known, honestly, I wish I'd known about Shipley and the fact that there was a standard process for doing these things instead of by the seat of your pants. Because the first, I wasn't married yet, didn't have children, fortunately, at that time, because I was working sometimes 16, 18 hours a day.
Oh my gosh.
It was sort of like, you probably know, sometimes you get a rush from that last week of a proposal, and you're like, you have all this energy. And unfortunately, what I learned was, the proposers had that too, and they were psyched to work until 2 a.m. But then the problem was, when that proposal got submitted, they were done. I had to go on to the next one, and then the next one, and then the next one. I was like, I can't do this, week after week after week. And so, I think, wish I'd known earlier about, could have saved some of my gray hair may still be black. Anyway, so I think it was that. It was knowing that there was an easier way to do this and actually do it better. That was the lesson.
Absolutely. And my final question, you've recently, gone into retirement. I think some of us, who are still busy in the proposal field, look forward to that day finally. What's next for you? What are you looking forward to in the future?
Really excited about some consulting work I'm doing, because it's in the same domain. I'm doing some capture work for a client, and that's fun because it's doing only that, and I don't have the administrative responsibilities anymore. I can just come in as an expert. I'm gonna try to do some color reviews. I like the fact that I can work part-time, and I'm not looking for a full-time gig right now. I might later on, but it's kind of nice. If you want to sleep in until 9 a.m., you can. Or I can take, if I don't have anything to do that day, I can go play golf, which I'm going to be doing Friday. I like to play a lot of golf. So, if you're able to financially, it's great with retirement. Obviously, our kids are no longer in school. We paid off our credit cards, so we're in better shape. That was my wife, Wendy, doing that, not me. We're in better shape than we were. So I'm looking forward to, spending more time with friends and just chilling. Go to the pool, read a book. We're going to the beach on Saturday for a week. Might be doing more of that. being a Florida boy, I love going to the beach.
Yeah.
So I'm just looking forward to winding down a little bit, but staying involved. I don't want to be totally retired because I would be miserable.
Oh, yeah. It sounds amazing. And it sounds like you're going to have a nice balance between being able to still do some work and getting to spend some time doing some of the things you love with the people you love.
Yes, that's exactly right. So I'm happy about that. And with all humbleness, I think I've earned it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds like it.
All those sleepless nights coming back to roost.
Absolutely.
Thank you, David. David, is there any part of your life or career, or is there anything else you would like to share in the last 1 or 2 minutes, David?
Just my advice to people in the proposal industry is have fun. If you can't laugh and along with having a passion, then life isn't as good as it could be. You got to find the humor. You got to find the goodness in people rather than worrying about vendettas and things. So just have a positive attitude. Watch funny movies. I still can't remember what my favorite funny movie is, but probably all of them. Monty Python comes to mind. I love. I could watch Monty Python and the Holy Grail 100 times. I think it's just classic. But just have a positive attitude and feel like your passion can lead you to great things.
Oh, that's profound advice. So thank you so much, David, for your time. It's been really absolutely beautiful to listen to your life stories and also to your family and your contribution, not just to APMP, but to the much wider community. Please continue to stay in touch, inspire bid and proposal colleagues. We wish you all the good health and happiness. Stay safe, stay strong, and stay kind as you always do, David. Thank you.
Same to both of you, and thank you for what you do. This is a great series, and we appreciate your passion for what you're doing here. It shows through your commitment and the great questions you ask. So stay safe and healthy yourselves.
Thank you so much, David. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
To our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Please visit batchuscribble.com/podcast to listen to this episode and check out any of our other previously recorded episodes. If you've enjoyed today's interview, don't forget to subscribe, review, and share the Scribble Talk podcast. We hope you'll check out our next episode where we interview another industry expert and special guest. Until then, it's Ashley Kays,
Pastor Sundram,
signing off.